I never thought I'd get married again at 44, but life has a way of surprising you. My name is Dorothy, and I met Robert at a colleague's retirement party. He was charming, successful, and 2 years older than me. After my first marriage ended, I'd focused on raising my daughter Emily, never expecting to find love again. But Robert changed all that. We clicked immediately, sharing the same dry sense of humor and love for quiet evenings at home. We both had our baggage, me with my daughter Emily, and him with Jessica. Emily was 22 then, already dating her boyfriend Mark seriously. Jessica was about the same age, living on her own and working at a marketing firm downtown. I remember being so nervous about meeting her, wanting to make a good impression. That first meeting should have been a warning sign. Jessica barely looked at me, spending most of the dinner texting on her phone. When Robert asked her what she thought of me later, she just shrugged and said, "She's fine, I guess." Robert and I decided to keep things simple when we got married. No big ceremony, just a quiet affair at City Hall with our closest family members. We celebrated at a small restaurant afterward, nothing fancy, but it felt perfect to me. Emily was there, beaming with happiness for me. Jessica showed up late and left early, claiming she had work commitments. Living together in Robert's apartment took some adjustment. Emily visited often for dinner, and she and Robert got along great. He'd help her with career advice, and they'd joke around like they'd known each other forever. But Jessica, that was a different story. "Hi Jessica, how's work going?" I'd ask when she'd come over. "Fine," she'd reply, not even looking up from her phone. "I made your favorite pasta, the one your dad mentioned." Not hungry. Every conversation was like pulling teeth. I tried everything, asking about her job, her hobbies, her friends. Nothing worked. She'd answer in monosyllables if she bothered to answer at all. One evening, I was heading to the kitchen when I overheard Jessica talking to Robert in his study. The door was slightly ajar, and I know I shouldn't have listened, but I couldn't help myself. "Dad, I just don't get what you see in her," Jessica was saying, her voice dripping with disdain. "She's so basic. Nothing like Mom. Have you seen how she dresses? Total simpleton." I waited for Robert to defend me. He just sighed and said, "Honey, give her a chance. She makes me happy." I walked away quietly, my heart heavy. I'd always known I wasn't some sophisticated socialite, I'm just an ordinary woman who tries to be kind and genuine. But hearing Jessica's words hurt more than I expected. I was washing dishes one Sunday afternoon when Emily burst through the door, practically bouncing with excitement. Her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes were sparkling in a way I hadn't seen since she was a little girl. Mom, she grabbed my wet hands, not caring about the soap suds. "Mark proposed." I dropped the plate I was holding back into the sink and pulled her into a tight hug. "Oh, sweetheart. Tell me everything." We sat at the kitchen table, and Emily told me all about how Mark had taken her to the spot where they had their first date. Robert was at work, which was probably for the best. This was a moment just for us. He got down on one knee. "Mom," Emily said, showing me the ring. And you know what I thought about right after I said yes? I shook my head, smiling at her enthusiasm. "Your wedding dress. The one I used to try on when I was little. Remember how you'd let me parade around in it, even though it was practically swallowing me whole?" My heart swelled. I'd kept that dress carefully preserved for 25 years, hoping for exactly this moment. "I still have it, sweetie. It's in perfect condition." Emily's eyes widened. "Really? You'd let me wear it?" "Of course. I've been saving it for you all these years. Come on, let's go look at it right now." We spent the next hour in my walk-in closet, carefully taking the dress out of its preservation box. Emily's eyes welled up when she saw it, the intricate beadwork still sparkled, and the silk was as creamy white as the day I'd first worn it. "Mom, it's even more beautiful than I remembered," she whispered, running her fingers over the fabric. "And you said this was from that famous designer, right? The one who just passed away last year?" I nodded. Yes, it was one of his early pieces. I saved for months to afford it. $3,000 was a fortune back then. A few days later, I was scrolling through my social media feed when I saw Emily's post. My daughter had always had a flair for the dramatic, and this announcement was no exception. In 6 months, I'll be walking down the aisle in something incredibly special, she'd written. My mom's vintage wedding dress from one of fashion's most legendary designers. Starting a new family tradition, all the women in our family will wear this piece of history. Can't wait to share photos of my beautiful mom in her youth, wearing this dress, alongside my wedding photos. Vintage bride, family tradition, designer. The comments started pouring in immediately. Emily's friends were going crazy over it. Oh my god, isn't that the designer whose vintage pieces are selling for like $50,000 now? You're so lucky. That dress must be worth a fortune. Please tell me you'll post the side-by-side photos. That's such a cool tradition. Emily responded to them all, clearly enjoying the excitement. When someone asked about the original price, she wrote, "Mom spent about $3,000 on it back then. Best investment ever, right?" As I read through the comments, I couldn't help but smile at my daughter's enthusiasm. But something in the back of my mind nagged at me, a strange feeling that this social media post was going to cause trouble. I just didn't know how right that feeling would turn out to be. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon when the doorbell rang. Robert was at work, and I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door and saw Jessica standing there, I almost didn't believe my eyes. In the 3 years I'd been married to Robert, she had never once come to see me when her father wasn't home. "Can I come in?" she asked, her tone unusually polite. "I need to talk to you about something." I stepped aside, still trying to process this unexpected visit. "Of course. Would you like some coffee?" "No, thanks." She walked straight to the living room and sat down, her designer purse perched perfectly on her lap. Something about her demeanor made me nervous. She seemed too composed, too deliberate. "I saw Emily's post," she said without preamble, her fingers fidgeting with the clasp of her purse. "About the wedding dress." "Oh?" I sat down across from her, wondering where this was going. Jessica had never shown any interest in anything related to Emily before. "My wedding is in 4 months," she continued, looking directly at me for what felt like the first time ever. 2 months before Emily's. I nodded, still not quite following. "Yes, Robert mentioned that. The planning is going well, I hope?" Jessica leaned forward slightly. "I want to wear the dress." The words hung in the air between us. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. "The designer dress," she clarified, as if I might not understand. "The one Emily posted about. I want to wear it at my wedding." My mouth opened and closed a few times before I found my voice. "Jessica, I don't think that would be appropriate. That dress has been promised to Emily since she was a little girl." "But I'm getting married first," she pressed, her voice taking on an edge I knew too well. "And I'm your stepdaughter now. Shouldn't that mean something?" I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. "Jessica, Emily has been dreaming about wearing this dress since she was tiny. She used to put it on and twirl around in it when it was practically dragging on the floor behind her. It's been our special thing for over 2 decades. So reschedule her wedding," Jessica said, as if it was the most obvious solution in the world. "Let me wear it first, then she can have it." I shook my head slowly. That's not how this works. Emily and Mark have already booked their venue, sent save the dates. But listen, if you really want to wear the dress, maybe you could consider moving your wedding to after Emily's? Then you could. Are you seriously suggesting I postpone my entire wedding? Her eyes narrowed. Think about it logically, I tried to reason with her. You're getting married first. If you wear the dress, everyone will see it in your wedding photos, all over social media. You and Emily share so many mutual friends, they'll all see both weddings. Emily would be devastated to walk down the aisle in a dress that's already been splashed all over Instagram from your wedding. Can you understand how that would make her feel? Jessica's face turned red, and she jumped to her feet so quickly that her designer purse fell to the floor. "You're just a selfish, greedy witch," she screamed, her composure completely shattered. "You've never wanted me to be part of this family. You probably get some sick pleasure from saying no to me." I stood up too, stunned by the sudden outburst. "Jessica, please, that's not. Save it." She was practically shaking with rage now. "You're just a gold digger who married my dad, and now you won't even do one nice thing for his real daughter. You're nothing but a mean, stingy, pathetic woman who thinks she's so special because she has some old designer dress." Tears were streaming down her face as she grabbed her purse from the floor. Her mascara was running, leaving black streaks down her cheeks. "Jessica, please sit down. Let's talk about this rationally." "Rational? You want rational?" She was screaming so loud now that I was sure the neighbors could hear. "How's this for rational? I hate you. I've always hated you, and now I know I was right about you all along." She stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door so hard that the pictures rattled on the walls. I sank back onto the couch, my hands shaking. In 3 years of dealing with Jessica's cold shoulder, I'd never seen her lose control like that. I spent the next few hours in a daze, replaying the conversation in my head, wondering if I could have handled it differently. When I heard Robert's key in the lock that evening, my stomach clenched. I knew what was coming. He didn't even take off his coat. "What the hell did you do to my daughter?" "Robert, please let me explain." "Explain what?" He threw his briefcase on the chair. "How you made my little girl cry. How you couldn't do one simple thing for her." I took a deep breath. "It's not simple, and you know it. That dress has been promised to Emily since she was a child. It's been our special thing for 25 years. Jessica is your family now too." Robert's voice rose. "Or at least she's supposed to be. She's my daughter, Dorothy." "My daughter? And you treat her like she's nothing? That's not fair." I felt tears pricking at my eyes. I've tried so hard with Jessica. For 3 years, I've tried. But this isn't about accepting her, this is about a promise I made to my daughter long before I even met you. "It's just a dress," Robert shouted. "One day. That's all she's asking for." "It's not just a dress," I was shouting now too. "It's a symbol of everything I promised my daughter. It's about her childhood dreams, about the tradition we planned together. How can you not see that? All I see is my wife refusing to do something nice for my daughter. Something that would make her happy on the most important day of her life. And what about Emily? What about her happiness? Does that matter to you at all?" Robert's face hardened. "Emily isn't my daughter." Those 4 words hung in the air between us like poison. We stared at each other across the living room, both breathing hard, both realizing we'd crossed a line we couldn't easily come back from. The silence in our apartment was deafening for the next few days. Robert slept in the guest room, and we performed an awkward dance of avoiding each other, taking turns in the kitchen, waiting until the other person left a room before entering. The weight of unspoken words hung heavy between us. One evening, as I was making dinner, Robert came into the kitchen and stood there, looking tired and worn. Neither of us spoke for a moment, just listening to the sound of pasta boiling on the stove. "Robert," I finally said, turning down the heat. "I think I have a solution." He looked at me warily, but pulled out a kitchen chair and sat down. It was the first time we'd properly faced each other in days. "There's this seamstress I know, Maria Rodriguez. She's incredible, one of the best in the city. She could make Jessica a dress that's inspired by mine. Same style, same elegance, but uniquely hers." Robert's expression softened slightly, so I continued. "Maria uses the finest materials, French lace, Italian silk. She's made dresses for some of the wealthiest families in town. My friend Sarah's daughter had her make her wedding dress last year, and it was absolutely stunning. Everyone at the wedding thought it was a designer piece." "How much would something like that cost?" Robert asked, his voice less harsh than it had been in days. "Don't worry about that," I said quickly. I want to pay for it. It would be my wedding gift to Jessica. I really want to make this right, Robert. I want to show Jessica that I care about her happiness too. I could see hope flickering in Robert's eyes. He reached for his phone. Let me call her right now. This could work. This could really work. I held my breath as he dialed Jessica's number and put it on speaker. She answered on the third ring. Dad? Honey, listen. Dorothy has a great idea. There's this amazing seamstress who could make you a dress just like. Are you kidding me? Jessica's voice cut through the kitchen like a knife. A knockoff? You want me to wear some cheap copycat dress made by some random local seamstress? Jessica, she's actually very well known, I tried to interject. Shut up, she screamed through the phone. I don't want to hear your voice. I want the dress. The designer dress. Not some pathetic imitation from some nobody dressmaker. Sweetheart, just listen, Robert attempted. No, you listen. I need that dress. That exact dress. I'm not walking down the aisle in some bargain basement reproduction. God, I can't believe you're even suggesting this. Jessica, please. This is insulting. I'd rather wear a trash bag than some fake version of that dress. Don't call me back unless you're going to tell me I can have the real thing. The call ended abruptly, leaving Robert and me sitting in stunned silence at our kitchen table. The pasta was boiling over on the stove, but neither of us moved to turn it off. The next morning, I was making coffee when Robert's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and immediately put it on speaker. Hi, Dad, Jessica's voice filled the kitchen. She sounded calmer than yesterday, almost calculated. I've been thinking about this whole situation. Robert shot me a hopeful look. Yeah? What's on your mind, sweetheart? Well, since your wife is being so difficult about the dress, I noticed how she refused to use my name. I found another solution. I found this amazing designer dress. It's perfect, actually better than that old one she's hoarding. That's great, honey, Robert smiled. Problem solved then? Almost. It's $20,000. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. I figure since she won't give me the dress, you can just give me the money instead. It's only fair, right? I watched Robert's face carefully, expecting him to laugh it off. Instead, he was nodding thoughtfully. Let me think about it, honey. We might be able to work something out. That's when I lost it. Are you out of your mind? I exploded. $20,000? 20,000? Robert covered the phone with his hand. Dorothy, please. No, you please. I was shaking with anger now. You're already paying for her entire wedding. The venue, the catering, the flowers, everything. And the 2-week honeymoon in the Maldives. Have you completely lost your mind? Jessica's voice came through the speaker. Oh great, she's there. Always trying to control everything. This is insane, I continued. This isn't about the dress anymore. This is emotional manipulation, and you're falling for it. Robert's face darkened. None of this would be happening if you'd just given her the dress in the first place. One day, Dorothy. That's all she wanted, one damn day. Oh, so this is my fault? Your daughter throws a tantrum and demands $20,000, but somehow I'm the unreasonable one? Yes, it is your fault. He was shouting now too. You're the one who started all of this. You're the one who couldn't make one small sacrifice for my daughter's happiness. Small sacrifice? You want me to betray a promise I made to my daughter 25 years ago, and you call that a small sacrifice? Dad, Jessica's voice cut in, are you going to let her talk to you like this? Something snapped inside me. Without another word, I walked to our bedroom and pulled out my suitcase. Robert followed me. What are you doing? What does it look like? I started throwing clothes into the suitcase. I'm leaving. I'm going back to my old apartment. You're being ridiculous. No, what's ridiculous is that you can't see what's happening here. What's ridiculous is that you're willing to throw away our marriage over a spoiled tantrum and $20,000. Dorothy, stop. But I was already zipping up the suitcase. I grabbed my purse, my keys, and walked to the door. The last thing I heard as I left was Jessica's voice from the phone. Dad? Are you still there? About that money. I hadn't planned on looking at Jessica's wedding photos. In fact, I'd been avoiding social media entirely since I moved back to my old apartment. But one evening, after a glass of wine, curiosity got the better of me. The photos appeared perfect, of course. Jessica stood beaming in a clearly expensive dress, all lace and crystals, probably worth every penny of that $20,000. Her father stood proudly beside her, and I felt a pang in my chest seeing Robert in his tuxedo, smiling like nothing was wrong in the world. Then I saw Jessica's caption beneath the main photo collection. The most perfect day of my life. My heart is so full knowing that everyone who truly loves me was there to share this magical moment. No drama, no negativity, just pure joy and love. So grateful that nobody who wanted to spoil this special day was present. Perfect wedding, true love, family first. My fingers tightened around my wine glass as I read it. The dig was obvious, subtle enough to seem innocent to outsiders, but clear as day to me. What hurt more than her words, though, was seeing Robert's like on the post. He knew exactly what she meant, and he'd endorsed it. 2 months crawled by. I threw myself into helping Emily with her wedding preparations, grateful for the distraction. She'd sent Robert an invitation, complete with a handwritten note telling him how much his presence would mean to her. He never responded. The morning of Emily's wedding dawned bright and clear. As I helped her into my dress, our dress, I couldn't hold back my tears. Mom, don't cry, Emily laughed, though her eyes were wet too. You'll ruin your makeup. Happy tears, baby, I assured her, adjusting the vintage lace around her shoulders. Just happy tears. The dress fit her perfectly, as if it had been made for this moment. The same dress I'd worn 25 years ago, the one she'd played dress-up in as a little girl. Seeing her in it now, radiant and grown up, made every bit of drama worth it. I can't believe I'm finally wearing it for real, she whispered, turning to look in the mirror. It's even more beautiful than I remembered. The ceremony was everything we'd dreamed it would be. Emily practically floated down the aisle, the vintage silk rustling softly with each step. Mark's face when he saw her, that look of pure love and awe, made my heart soar. I kept glancing at the empty seat where Robert should have been, but I refused to let his absence dim the joy of the day. This was Emily's moment, the fulfillment of a childhood dream, and nothing could spoil that. During the reception, I watched my daughter twirling on the dance floor in my dress, laughing and happy, surrounded by people who truly loved her. No snide comments, no hidden agendas, no drama, just pure, uncomplicated joy. It's been 4 months since Emily's wedding. The seasons have changed, leaves have fallen, and my old apartment feels both familiar and strange. Sometimes I wake up reaching for Robert's side of the bed, only to remember he isn't there. Hasn't been there for months now. Last week, I finally packed away my own wedding photos, the ones from that simple ceremony at City Hall with Robert. They'd been sitting in a drawer since I moved back here, like a question I wasn't ready to answer. As I tucked them into a box, I found myself wondering if he ever thinks about that day, about how happy we were before a wedding dress of all things tore us apart. Emily visits often. She and Mark are settling into married life beautifully, and seeing her happiness helps confirm that I made the right choice. Yesterday, over coffee, she asked if I regretted not giving Jessica the dress. No, I told her honestly. Some promises need to be kept, no matter the cost. She squeezed my hand and said, "I'm sorry it cost you your marriage, Mom." But did it? Was it really the dress that ended things, or did it just expose cracks that were already there? Robert and I haven't spoken since Emily's wedding. No calls, no texts, not even through lawyers. Just silence. He hasn't made a single attempt to reach out, to try to understand my side of things, to find a way forward together. Sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I imagine him picking up the phone, finally ready to talk. I picture us working through this, finding our way back to each other. After all, we did love each other once, deeply, genuinely. Part of me still does. But I won't be the one to make that first call. I offered solutions. I tried to compromise. I even offered to pay for a beautiful custom-made dress for Jessica. What more could I have done? Some might say I'm being stubborn, that pride isn't worth losing a marriage over. But this isn't about pride, it's about standing up for what's right, about keeping your word, about teaching your children that their dreams and feelings matter. The wedding dress hangs in Emily's closet now, wrapped in tissue paper and memories. Sometimes I think about how something so beautiful, something meant to symbolize love and tradition, became the catalyst for so much pain. But then I remember Emily's face when she wore it, the way she glowed walking down the aisle, and I know I'd make the same choice again. Maybe someday Robert will understand that. Maybe someday he'll realize that true love means supporting each other's principles, not just giving in to demands. Maybe someday we'll find our way back to that simple happiness we had before. But until then, I'll be here in my old apartment, living with my choice. Because sometimes doing the right thing means walking a lonely path. And sometimes love means knowing when to stand your ground, even if it means standing alone. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here I am. My name is Jenna, and until recently, I thought I had a pretty good life. I worked as an accountant at a mid-sized firm, lived in a comfortable apartment in the suburbs, and had what I believed was a solid marriage to Mark, my husband of 10 years. Most importantly, we had our beautiful daughter, Sarah, who was the light of our lives. Mark and I met in college. He was the charming business major who always knew exactly what to say, and I was the quiet girl who preferred numbers to people. Somehow, we clicked. After graduation, we both landed decent jobs, got married, and started building our life together. When Sarah came along 2 years later, everything felt perfect. I can still remember the day everything changed. It was a regular Tuesday evening in March. Sarah, 8 at the time, was already in bed, and Mark and I were sitting at our kitchen table. He had that look on his face, the one that said he had something heavy on his mind. "Jenna, we need to talk," he said, fidgeting with his coffee mug. I knew right then that whatever was coming wasn't good. "What's wrong?" I asked, though part of me already knew. There had been signs, late nights at work, mysterious phone calls, the emotional distance that had been growing between us. He took a deep breath. "I've met someone else." Those 4 words hit me like a punch to the gut. Her name was Rebecca, he told me. She worked in his department. They'd been seeing each other for months. "I'm sorry," he said, as if that made everything okay. "I never meant for this to happen, but I think I'm in love with her." I sat there, numb, as he continued talking about how we'd grown apart and how Rebecca understood him in ways I never could. All I could think about was Sarah, sleeping peacefully upstairs, unaware that her world was about to be turned upside down. The next few weeks were a blur of mediation sessions and painful conversations. We agreed to keep things civil for Sarah's sake. In the end, I got our apartment, and Mark got the car and yacht, toys I never cared much about anyway. He agreed to pay generous child support, and we worked out a custody arrangement where Sarah would live primarily with me but spend regular time with her father. "I know I've hurt you," Mark said during our final mediation session, "but I want to do right by Sarah." I just nodded. What else could I say? The man I'd loved for a decade had betrayed me, but he was still Sarah's father. For her sake, I had to find a way to co-parent with him, to push aside my own hurt and anger. A year passed like a blur of workdays, homework help, and adjusting to our new routine. Sarah had just turned 9, and I was finally starting to feel like I had my feet under me again. Then came the wedding invitation, not for me, of course, but for Sarah. Mark was marrying Rebecca. They'd bought a house together, or rather, they were moving into her house, a sprawling 2-story in the nice part of town with a manicured lawn and a 3-car garage. The kind of place that screamed successful couple. The morning of the wedding, I helped Sarah get ready. She wore a pale blue dress we'd picked out together, and I braided her hair the way she liked it. "Are you sure you're okay with me going, Mom?" she asked, watching me in the mirror as I pinned back a stray strand. "Of course I am, sweetheart," I replied, meeting her eyes in the reflection. "She's going to be your stepmother. It's important that you two have a good relationship. But aren't you sad?" I turned her around to face me. "Listen to me, Sarah. What happened between your dad and me is grown-up stuff. It has nothing to do with you. I want you to have a good relationship with both your dad and Rebecca. No taking sides, okay?" She hugged me tight. "You're the best mom ever." Mark picked her up in his new SUV, and I spent the day cleaning the apartment and definitely not thinking about the wedding. When Sarah came home that night, she was full of stories about the ceremony, the cake, and the big house where she'd have her own room for visits. Life went on. I threw myself into work and taking care of Sarah. We developed our own little routines: Tuesday night movies, Saturday morning pancakes, long walks in the park on Sundays. Sarah split her time between our apartment and Mark's house, and things were okay. Not great, but okay. Then one day, Sarah came bouncing through the door after a weekend at her dad's, practically bursting with news. "Mom, guess what?" she exclaimed, dropping her backpack by the door. "Rebecca's pregnant. I'm going to have a little brother or sister." I felt like someone had punched me in the gut, but I kept my face neutral. "Really? That's big news." "Yeah, you can already see her belly a little bit." Dad's super excited. He kept talking about turning the guest room into a nursery. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. All I could think was, please, don't let this change how he treats Sarah. Don't let her become the forgotten first child. A month later, Sarah came home early from what was supposed to be a week-long stay at her dad's. She looked frustrated as she dragged her suitcase through the door. "Rebecca's really sick," she explained, flopping onto the couch. "She keeps throwing up and getting mad at everything. The smell of Dad's coffee made her cry this morning, and she said my laugh was too loud. So she asked if I could come home early." I sat down next to her, running my hand over her hair. That happens sometimes when women are pregnant. Their hormones make them extra sensitive to everything. I understood pregnancy symptoms all too well, remembering my own months of morning sickness when I was carrying Sarah. So I couldn't really blame Rebecca for being overwhelmed. A couple of weeks after Sarah's early return, Mark pulled up in front of our apartment to pick her up for another visit. I watched from the window as Sarah ran down to his car, her backpack bouncing against her back. Everything seemed normal enough. During the next 2 weeks, I called Sarah every evening. Our conversations were brief but reassuring. "Everything's good, Mom," she'd say. "We had pizza for dinner, or Dad's teaching me to play chess." When she finally came home, though, something seemed off. There were shadows under her eyes that hadn't been there before, and she moved more slowly than usual, like she was carrying a weight on her shoulders. "Honey, are you okay?" I asked, helping her unpack her bag. "You look tired." "Oh, I'm fine," she said, waving off my concern. "I've just been helping Rebecca around the house a bit. You know, cleaning and stuff. She can't do much right now, because of the baby. I even learned how to make spaghetti." My heart swelled with pride. I'd always tried to teach Sarah to be kind and helpful to others. "That's really sweet of you, honey," I said, giving her a hug. "I'm proud of you for helping out." Life went back to normal for a few weeks, until one evening when my phone rang. It was Mark. "Hey, Jenna," he said, his voice careful and measured. "I need to ask you a favor." According to our custody agreement, Sarah was supposed to spend the next month with me, but Mark had other ideas. "Would it be okay if Sarah stayed with us instead?" he asked. "She and Rebecca have really been bonding lately. Sarah's been such a help around the house, and they've gotten really close." I pressed my lips together, considering. "Let me ask Sarah what she wants." I called Sarah to the phone, and I could hear the hesitation in her voice as she listened to her father's request. But then Mark's tone changed, becoming excited. "Oh, and sweetheart, I've got a surprise for you," he said. "I just picked up that new computer game you've been talking about. The one with the dragons." "Mom, can I go?" Sarah turned to me, her eyes shining. "Please?" What could I say? Of course, if that's what you want. The next 2 weeks passed quietly. Mark took care of all the school runs, and Sarah seemed to be settling into a routine at their house. She sent me regular updates, photos of herself cooking in their fancy kitchen, shots of her playing her new game, pictures of her lounging on their plush living room couch. Everything looked fine on the surface. Still, something nagged at the back of my mind. Something about those photos felt staged. But I pushed the thought away. I was probably just being paranoid, letting my own feelings about Mark and Rebecca cloud my judgment. Sarah seemed happy enough in the pictures, and that's what mattered, right? When Sarah finally came home after that week, I barely recognized my own daughter. Her face was drawn and pale, with dark circles under her eyes that no 12-year-old should have. Her shoulders slumped as if she'd been carrying bricks. "Sarah, honey, what's wrong?" I asked, reaching for her. She just waved me off weakly. "I'm really tired, Mom. Can I go to bed?" "Don't you want dinner first?" But she was already dragging herself to her room. She didn't even change into her pajamas, just collapsed onto her bed and was out like a light. Something was very wrong. I waited until she was sound asleep before calling Mark. "What's going on over there?" I demanded. "Sarah looks completely exhausted." "Oh, here we go," Mark sighed. I could practically hear him rolling his eyes. "You're exaggerating, Jenna, as usual." "Exaggerating? Have you seen our daughter? She looks like she hasn't slept in days. She helped Rebecca with some housework. She's just not used to doing chores, probably because someone spoils her at home." The jab stung, but I pressed on. "This isn't about me, Mark. Something's not right." "She's fine," he insisted. "Kids today are so soft. A little work never hurt anyone. She'll adjust." I didn't sleep well that night, waiting for Sarah to wake up. When she finally emerged from her room the next afternoon, I sat her down at the kitchen table and made her favorite breakfast for lunch, chocolate chip pancakes. "Sweetie," I said, sliding a plate in front of her, "I need you to tell me what's really going on at your dad's house." Sarah pushed the pancakes around with her fork, not meeting my eyes. "It's nothing." "Sarah, please. I can see how tired you are. You can tell me anything, you know that." She was quiet for a long moment, then the words started tumbling out. "Rebecca doesn't do anything anymore. She says she can't because of the baby, but Mom, she makes me do everything. I have to clean the whole house, vacuum, dust, mop, everything. I have to cook too. She makes me cut up vegetables and use the stove, even though it scares me." My hands clenched into fists under the table. "What about relaxing? Don't you get any time to yourself?" Sarah's lower lip trembled. "I tried to watch TV after cleaning one day, but Rebecca said the noise gave her a headache. She just turned it off and told me to go to my room and be quiet. She says I laugh too loud and walk too heavy and... I was already pulling out my phone, dialing Mark's number. He answered on the fourth ring. "What now, Jenna? What now? How about explaining why our daughter is being treated like Cinderella in your house?" My voice shook with anger. "She's 12 years old, Mark. She shouldn't be cooking and cleaning an entire house." "Sarah's exaggerating," he said dismissively. "Rebecca just asked for a little help, and we turned down the TV because it was too loud. You're making this into something it's not. She's scared to use the stove, Mark. She's exhausted. This isn't okay." The line went dead. He'd hung up on me. I stared at my phone in disbelief, then looked at Sarah, who was still pushing her pancakes around her plate. My daughter, my beautiful, kind-hearted daughter, who was being taken advantage of by the very people who should have been protecting her. After a few days, the situation became even more complicated. I was in the middle of reviewing quarterly reports at work when my phone rang. Seeing it was Sarah's school, my heart immediately jumped into my throat. "Mrs. Mitchell?" It was Mrs. Henderson, Sarah's homeroom teacher. "I needed to talk to you about Sarah's performance lately." I gripped my pen tighter. "Is everything okay?" "Well, that's just it. Sarah's grades have dropped significantly in the past month. She's falling asleep in class, her homework is often incomplete, and she seems exhausted. I know she's always been a good student, which is why this change is concerning. Is everything all right at home?" My pen snapped in half. "Thank you for letting me know, Mrs. Henderson. I'm aware of the situation and working on it." The moment I hung up, I tried calling Mark. Straight to voicemail. I sent him a text, "We need to talk about Sarah. Her grades are dropping. Call me ASAP." The little read notification appeared under my message almost immediately, but no response came. Not that day, not the next, not for 2 weeks. When Mark finally showed up at our door for his scheduled time with Sarah, I was ready. "She's not going," I said, blocking the doorway. His face darkened. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Her grades are tanking, she's exhausted all the time, and her teacher is worried. This isn't healthy, Mark. You can't do this," he growled. "We have a custody agreement. If you violate it, I'll take you to court." "Go ahead. I'd love to explain to a judge how you're letting your pregnant wife use our daughter as free household labor." Mark pushed past me into the apartment, his face red with anger. Then his expression suddenly shifted, softening as he spotted Sarah hovering in the hallway. "Princess," he said, his voice gentle now. "Get your things. Don't worry about what your mom's saying, I promise you won't have to do any more housework. I just miss you, sweetheart. I want to spend time with my girl." I watched Sarah's face, saw her wavering. She looked at me, uncertain. "Just a minute," I said, pulling her aside while Mark waited by the door. I knelt down and whispered in her ear, "Take your phone with you. Turn on the voice recorder app. Record everything that happens there, what Rebecca says to you, what your dad says. It'll be our secret, okay?" Sarah's eyes widened slightly, then she gave me a tiny nod. I squeezed her hand and winked. "Remember," I whispered. "Don't let them know you're recording. This is just between us." She hurried to pack a bag while I stood watching Mark, who was checking his phone and pretending not to be angry. 5 minutes later, Sarah was ready. I hugged her tight before she left, feeling like I was sending my child into battle with nothing but a cell phone for armor. But sometimes the best weapons aren't the ones you can see. That week was torture. Every time my phone buzzed, I'd lunge for it, only to find another short text from Sarah, "I'm okay. Everything's fine. Don't worry." But mothers know when something's wrong, and everything in me screamed that things were far from fine. The doorbell rang on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened the door, there stood Sarah, soaking wet, shivering, and alone. "Oh my God," I gasped, pulling her inside. "Sarah, what happened? How did you get here?" "I ran away," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Took the bus." I looked at her hands as I helped her out of her wet jacket. They were red and raw, with calluses forming on her palms. She could barely keep her eyes open, and when she tried to take off her shoes, she winced in pain. "First things first," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let's get you warm and fed." I made her favorite comfort food, grilled cheese and tomato soup, and watched as she practically inhaled it. Only when she'd finished eating did I dare to ask, "What happened, sweetheart?" Without a word, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking as she handed it to me. "The recordings," she said quietly. "Listen." I opened her voice recorder app, and what I heard made my blood run cold. "You stupid, clumsy girl," Rebecca's voice crackled through the speaker. Can't you do anything right? Look at these floors, I can still see spots everywhere. I'm trying my best, Sarah's small voice replied. Your best isn't good enough. Do it again. And when you're done, there's laundry to fold and dinner to start. But I'm scared of using the stove. Get out of my sight. Just get out, useless. My hands were shaking as I played recording after recording. Rebecca's voice grew more cruel with each one. You think you're so special? Wait until my baby comes, then you'll really learn what work is. Free babysitter, that's what you'll be. Then came the conversation that broke my heart, Sarah pleading with her father. Dad, please. Rebecca's making me do everything. I'm so tired. Stop lying, Mark's voice was cold, unrecognizable. You're just lazy. Do you know how much money I pay your mother? The least you can do is help around the house. But Dad. Listen to me carefully, his voice dropped to a threatening whisper. If you tell your mother about any of this, I'll take her to court. I'll get full custody, and you'll never see her again. Do you understand? I looked at my daughter, huddled in her chair, and felt a rage I'd never known before. This wasn't just about making a child do chores, this was abuse. Sarah burst into tears, and I held her until she stopped shaking, making promises I intended to keep. I won't let them hurt you anymore, baby. You're safe now. After she calmed down, I called my sister, Amy. I need a favor, I said, explaining the situation. She arrived within 20 minutes. The drive to Mark's house was a blur of rage and adrenaline. I jabbed the doorbell repeatedly until he yanked the door open. What the hell are you? I pushed past him into the foyer. Where is she? He demanded. Sarah ran away, and I know you put her up to it. This is your fault, Jenna. You've spoiled her rotten, letting her do whatever she wants. Rebecca waddled up behind him, one hand protectively over her swollen belly. She nodded along with Mark's words, playing the perfect supportive wife. You're the one who's turned her into a spoiled brat, Mark continued. She thinks she's too good to help around the house. Bullied her, I cut in, my voice ice cold. You both bullied my 12-year-old daughter. They exchanged a look before breaking into dismissive laughter. Oh, please, Rebecca rolled her eyes. Sarah has quite an imagination. She's always making up stories. I pulled out my phone. Really? Making up stories like this? I pressed play. Rebecca's voice filled the room. You stupid, clumsy girl. Can't you do anything right? Their faces went slack with shock. I played more, Mark's threats about court, Rebecca's cruel words about using Sarah as a babysitter, all of it. Mark recovered first, his face turning ugly. You think this changes anything? I have expensive lawyers. The best in the state. They'll tear you apart. You're hurting me, Rebecca suddenly shrieked, clutching her belly. Your fighting is stressing me out. I just wanted your daughter to help me. I turned to her, feeling oddly calm, despite my rage. If you want to raise a maid so badly, wait for your own child. My daughter isn't your servant. Her face flushed red as she sputtered in outrage. Finally, I faced Mark. You know what's really pathetic? Not that you left me, that hurt, but I got over it. What's pathetic is that you failed the one person you never should have failed. You stood there and let your wife abuse our daughter. You even helped her do it. What kind of father does that make you? I didn't wait for an answer. I turned on my heel and walked out, leaving them standing in their perfect house with their perfect lawn. They could keep it all. I had something far more precious to protect. The next morning, I called the best family law attorney I could find, Linda Stevenson. The legal battle was exhausting. Mark's expensive lawyers painted me as a vindictive ex-wife, trying to poison my daughter against her father and his new family. They claimed I was cruel for not letting Sarah bond with her pregnant stepmother, that I was jealous of their perfect new life, that I was using Sarah as a weapon in my revenge against Mark. But then we played the recordings in court. I watched the judge's face darken as she listened to Rebecca berating Sarah, to Mark threatening our daughter, to their casual cruelty. The courtroom fell silent except for those damning voices coming through the speakers. Even Mark's fancy lawyers couldn't explain away their own recorded words. Sarah was brave enough to testify too. She sat in that witness chair, looking so small, but speaking with such clarity about what had happened. I saw several jury members wipe away tears as she described being afraid to use the stove but being forced to cook anyway, about how her hands hurt from scrubbing floors, about how she'd fallen asleep in class because she was so exhausted from all the housework. When the verdict came down, it was decisive. The judge granted me full custody, with Mark losing all visitation rights unless I explicitly permitted them. He would still have to pay child support, but he had no legal right to see Sarah without my approval. Mark exploded when the verdict was read. He stormed up to me outside the courtroom, his face red with rage. "Happy now?" he spat. "This is what you wanted all along, isn't it? Revenge because I left you for Rebecca?" I looked at him calmly, feeling nothing but pity. "You really don't get it, do you? This was never about us. This was about Sarah. But congratulations, Mark, you found yourself the perfect partner. She's just as cruel and manipulative as you are. You deserve each other." That was the last real conversation we ever had. Months passed. Sarah's grades improved dramatically once she wasn't exhausted from being treated like a servant. Her smile came back, and her laugh, that beautiful laugh that used to annoy Rebecca so much, filled our home again. We heard through mutual friends that Rebecca had given birth to a son. Mark sent a few texts asking to see Sarah, but they were half-hearted at best, and stopped entirely after a while. Sometimes I wondered if he ever truly understood what he'd lost, not just his daughter, but the chance to be the father she deserved. Sarah's 14 now, and the other day I overheard her talking to her best friend about the whole situation. "Aren't you sad about not seeing your dad?" her friend asked. "Sometimes," Sarah admitted. "But not seeing him is better than being treated like I'm worthless. Besides, I have the best mom in the world." I often look out the window, thinking about how far we'd come. The apartment might not be as fancy as Mark's big house, and we might not have expensive cars or yachts, but we have something much more valuable: peace, love, and respect. Sarah doesn't have to fear walking into her own home anymore. She doesn't have to be anyone's servant or scapegoat. She can just be herself, a bright, funny, kind-hearted teenager who deserves every happiness in the world. As for me, I've learned that sometimes the happy ending isn't the one you imagined. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's just a mom and her daughter, making pancakes on Saturday mornings, watching movies together, and filling their home with laughter that's as loud as they want it to be.